Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Chronic Gamer and today I want to explain to you what World vs. World in Guild Wars 2 is all about. The basics. World vs. World is one of the three major aspects in Guild Wars 2. You have PvE, PvP and World vs. World, which combines elements out of both. Since Guild Wars 2 doesn't have any factions, World vs. World consists of three whole servers marked as red, blue and green, fighting each other in a 2-week-long battle. Yep, 2 weeks, but of course you don't have to stay the whole time. Although you could, if you somehow manage to stay up that long without, well, dying. But normally you can just jump in, play for however long you want, leave, maybe play some PvE in between, and then come back after a few hours. The servers in Guild Wars 2 are called worlds, by the way, so from now on I'm gonna use that term. Contrary to PvP, in World vs. World your character will have the same equipment, the same choice of abilities, and the same traits as your character in PvE. To create at least some kind of level playing field, your character's level and attributes will be dynamically adjusted to level 80. If, for example, you have a level 15 character, you'll have the basic attributes of a level 80 character, but you're still only able to equip gear up to level 15 and you'll have the same choice of traits and abilities as a level 15 character. So if you're fighting against a player whose real level is 80, then you'll still get your ass handed to you, but you're not completely useless in a group. Since you can go into World vs. World at level 1 and because you'll get a similar amount of experience as you would in PvE, you could choose to progress your character solely through World vs. World, all the way from level 1 up to level 80. The maps. This 2-week-long battle will take place on 4 maps at the same time. Every world has its own map called Borderlands. Depending on which world, it's Borderlands blue, green or red, and then there's also a contested map called Eternal Battlegrounds. At the start of every 2 weeks, every world has all the objectives on their own map and the ones on the Eternal Battlegrounds are evenly distributed between the three. Because these maps are so big, it might be hard to find out where exactly the action is going on at the moment. To solve this issue, your map of these areas is marked with crossed swords wherever a certain minimum amount of players are fighting. The player limits of these maps are not yet finalized, but current estimates are that each map will support at least 500 players, which brings it to a total of 2000 people playing World vs. World at the same time. But ArenaNet is still working on improving this number. You might have already asked yourself, why 3 servers? Well, this is ArenaNet's way of preventing the possibility of one server completely dominating the others. Let's imagine the green server is clearly controlling the battlefield. Since blue and red both want to win, they'll focus their efforts on pushing back the green server. If they succeed in doing this, they'll still have to battle it out between each other, at which point the red server has the opportunity to retaliate. This constant back and forth makes it very hard for one server to clearly dominate the others, and in the end this leads to a more entertaining battle. Since I've already mentioned objectives, let's take a more detailed look at them. The objectives. The general task in World vs. World is to claim as many objectives for your server as possible, and hold them for as long as possible. Every 5 minutes, each world is rewarded a certain amount of war points depending on the number of claimed objects. After 2 weeks, the accumulated war points, also called war score, will decide which world has won, and then you will, based on your world's ranking, be matched up against 2 new servers. This will only take a few minutes of downtime. There are 4 different types of objectives. The smallest one are the resource camps. These are only protected by few NPC guards and easily captured by a small group of 5 players, maybe even less. Of course, the number of enemy players is the most important factor in order to assess the difficulty of capturing an object. But for the purpose of this explanation, we'll just continue with the assumption that there are no enemy players whatsoever. So resource camps generate a certain amount of supply, which is needed to build siege weapons, repair walls and doors, and to reinforce already claimed objectives by purchasing defensive upgrades. The next bigger objectives are towers, and those are a little tougher. Not only do you have to break through a gate or a wall and fight NPC guards, but in addition there's a tower lord you'll have to defeat in order to gain control over the tower. The lowest amount of players I've ever captured a tower with was about 10 people, and I would strongly recommend bringing some kind of siege weapons, otherwise it takes ages to get through a gate or through a wall. After the towers come the keeps, and there you get the whole package. Lots of guards, 2 lines of defense you'll have to break through in order to get to the keep lord who you have to defeat. Taking over keep is definitely not an easy feat. You're gonna need a large group of people and without question some sort of siege weapons. The biggest objective is the Stone Mist Castle, which is located in the middle of the Eternal Battlegrounds and only there. It has a variety of NPC guards, 2 wards and a lord as defense. Since it is placed in a good strategic point and rewards the most war points of all objectives, it is often very well protected by enemy players and therefore the hardest structure to conquer. Siege weapons. I've already said that you might need siege weapons in order to conquer some of the objectives, but there are many different types, so let's see what we have at our disposal. To build a siege weapon you have to buy a blueprint, place the build site and then bring a certain amount of supply to it. The price for the blueprint and the needed supply differ from weapon to weapon. Arrow cards can blanket a small area in arrows. They are a very effective weapon against players and NPCs, and due to the AoE attack they are very good against groups, but almost useless against walls and gates. A ballista fires a single shot at a time and requires a target. Ballistae are very effective against players as well as enemy siege weapons. A catapult deals heavy damage to wards or moderate damage to gates. Clusters of enemies are also a viable target, but the long aiming time makes it almost useless against moving targets. A flame ram is very effective against gates, but has to be placed right in front of it. As a secondary mechanic, it has an attack that burns enemy players around it, which makes it a little bit harder to destroy. Trebuchets have a very long range and are effective against clusters of enemies as well as wards and gates. Although hard to aim at large range, it enables you to do significant damage from a safe distance, in many cases even from another tower or another keep. In order to aim at large range, where you often don't even see your target, it is very helpful to have someone scout the target location until you figure out the right angle and the right distance. Siege golems are the only siege weapon that can be moved after placing it. It deals good damage to structures as well as players. Since you're able to move the golem, you're able to attack multiple objectives with only one golem, but it moves very slow. So there's a lot of time for enemy players to destroy it between 2 objectives. Because of this, it is very advisable to escort your golem from one objective to the next one. With all of these weapons you can make sure that your enemy's gates and wards won't stand for long, and you don't have to hold back either. When you conquer an objective, the gates and wards you've previously turned to dust will automatically rebuild itself. If you want to have some fun and you've just too much gold weighing you down, you can also just go crazy and barricade yourself. In the last beta weekend, I and some guildmates managed to hold an enemy resource camp and a tower for over 2 hours. This might not seem like a huge accomplishment, but you have to consider that we were about 10 to 15 people and the blue server didn't manage to beat us with about 30, maybe even more. Although I should say that after these 2 hours they got a little pissed that we were holding 2 of their objectives with only a couple of players, and they decided to gather their troops and overrun us with about 50 people. But it definitely was a whole lot of fun. Anyway, there are also some siege weapons that are specifically designed to defend a claimed objective. They cost supply as well, but you don't have to buy a blueprint. One example is a boiling pot of oil, which can drop the oil on attackers at a gate and make it almost impossible to attack a gate at melee range. Fun for everyone. One of ArenaNet's goals was to make World vs. World a viable option for people who normally wouldn't enjoy PvP. The large scale of this game mode enables you to maybe just mess around a bit without ruining the game for everyone else. But this in no way means that small groups can't make a difference. The different sizes of the objectives allows for a huge variety of different players contributing to the greater goal. If you're just one person, you could help by escorting a resource delivery from a resource camp to the keeps and towers. Or you could look for a giant mob of people and join them in an attack on the castle. Small coordinated groups can take on the mission of taking over some resource camps so that an enemy keep can support their defenses with supply. A huge guild can coordinate attacks on the Stone Mist Castle, or split up into smaller groups and take over the surrounding objects to cut them off from the outside. Need a break from all the PvP action? No problem. How about helping a neutral NPC faction defending their camp from a Krite invasion? Your help will benefit the whole server, cause now the NPC faction will assist you in your fight against the other worlds. Whatever your preferred playstyle might be, I'm pretty confident that you'll find a way to be useful. The reward. So why would you make the effort of fighting for your world for 2 weeks and leading it to victory? Well, if you do so, you get a little something out of it beside the normal progress and of course a whole lot of fun. The winning server gets the buff Power of the Mists for all players in PvE and World vs. World, which gives you bonuses for health, gathering and crafting, among other things. Well, thanks for watching my video about World vs. World. I hope I could get you at least a little bit excited about it. So leave your comments down below and don't forget to like and subscribe for more Guild Wars 2 content. My name is Chronic Gamer, I'll see you next time.